Hey guys, this is part 2 of my solar installation. What we're looking at here right now is actually the solar charger, the necessary fuses, and also some 8AWG wiring that I'm going to use to hook up my panels, which are pretty much ready to rock and roll. So what I did, I have a total of 5 panels, 200 watts each. I connected 3 of them on the port side in parallel, and then the starboard side I connected 2, therefore 5. The 2 I'm going to guide, the wires I'm going to guide into the starboard side of my catamaran. So all the way down there, down to a battery bank that I have over there for my water maker, to be precise. And then on the other side, if some of you are familiar with the Lagoon 400, I'm actually going to go down the stanchion that's resting on the davits that I showed you how I put that together last time. And I'm going to go down, I'll take some detailed pictures of that later on, how I'm going to actually put the wires through the hull and guide them inside to then the battery bank, which in the Lagoon 400 and perhaps also in other lagoons, I'm not familiar with them, is on the port side, so which is down below in the guest cabin. Either way, so I thought I'd just let you know what's going on. So I'm showing you a couple of the components that I'm going to use. Obviously, the most important parts. This is the Smart Solar MPPT 100, so which is a 50 amp charge controller. I chose this one on recommendation from a couple other boaters here in the Marina del Rey Basin, and they were really hyped on the fact that you can have Bluetooth connection. You can download an app for either, let's say, your smartphone or your iPad, and then you can actually monitor the performance. So there's no need to have, let's say, an external let's say a meter that takes care of all of that. It's just all there in the palm of your hand. Again, some basic other things, some fuses. This is a 60 amp fuse, which I'm actually going to put in between the charge controller and the battery bank. And I have a couple of connectors you can see here as well, specifically for a 3/8 diameter bolt. Then I have a couple of thermal circuit breakers, which I will be mounting, not fully decided on that yet, also inside in the cabin, close to the charge controller, but then of course before the charge controller. So this is actually going to be in between the solar panel wiring and the charge controller. So 2 sets of fuses, extra security, obviously. So still haven't decided on that yet. You guys will definitely find out where it's going to be in the end, and a couple of connectors to, of course, connect the wiring to that as well properly. Then 2 sets of wires, 40 feet each. So 1 for port, 1 for starboard side. Some shrink wrap, and then also some tie wraps and some nylon cable clamps. So either way, one big whole puzzle, and I will try to shoot some additional video as I go along. Finally made it in the dinghy today, so I routed the positive and negative wire from the top of the parallel splitters, in this particular case, if you want to call it that. Wires are going to go all the way down to the frame. I'll guide them down. Obviously I will clean it up, but what I specifically wanted to point out is this. So owners of lagoons probably know what this is, and if you don't, well, you're going to learn it right now. Behind this particular panel is the air intake for your engine, and it also provides some cooling air as well for the engine environment, some fresh air. So the cool part about it is you can take it off. And why would I take it off, you would think? Well, I figured that if I, instead of drilling holes in my hull, which is of course, you know, also a very nice way to do it, and you got all kinds of plugs that you can use for that, I would just actually just make a small slit into one of these air intake pipes and guide the wires right through. So as you see here, we put some caulking on there to seal it up. I will also do that from the inside as well, and clean it up nicely, and also put some nice brackets on there so that the wires won't be, let's say, hanging like this obviously, and put the cover back on, so like it never happened, as I always say. So either way, we'll go into the engine compartment on the port side in just a little bit so you can see where I routed the wires. So after some athletics, I made it into the engine compartment. So we're in the port side. You can see the air intake hoses actually going down to the engine. Here you see the little slit that I made to guide the power cords in. I've routed them alongside this existing wire that's already there. I think it's like a ventilation or something like that. Underneath the rudder, and then next through this already existing hole down below into the engine compartment, coming out right next to the shore power chargers, battery chargers. So the next step is to guide the solar power wires through the same holes that are also being used. And let's see if I can actually get the angle. There we go. That are also being used for the power wires that go from the shore power chargers all the way into the gas cabin compartment. That is where our house battery bank is located. That will be the next step.
What you doing?
Well, I'm going to be cutting the positive and negative wire so I can make that fit in here. Solar charger, breaker. So the breaker is going to go up here. Here's the incoming positive wire from the solar system. And from that point on, after the breaker, I'm going to wire it nicely around and then connect it to these ports on the solar charger. The solar charger is going to be sitting right there. It's almost like it was made for it. And that will be that particular step of the operation.
So you're figuring out which battery to connect the wires to?
Yep, we have 4 batteries in our battery bank. I have read on several forums that it's never wise to connect either, let's say, 2 solar chargers on the same battery, let alone a charger such as this, which is from the shore power, which then also connects to a particular battery as well, which happens to be this one right here. So my decision is to connect the solar charger to this battery. It's all in parallel anyways, but it's better to then share the load. Apparently that's the best way to do it. That's what I have read on the forums online. So I'm going to take the opinions of the specialists on that. So I'm going to put a connector on this red wire. Obviously I'll route it down, make it all nice, and connect it over here. That's the positive. And for the negative, I'll probably make a connector here. There's still some room on this thread anyways to put a connector underneath over there as well. So I don't see any issues with that. Well, there you have it. The wires came in from behind the bulkhead over there. You see on top here of the fuel tank there is a mount that actually already had a neutral connected to it. So I actually used a separate wire, a neutral wire that goes all the way to the neutral connection on the side of the MPPT controller that you see right there. Yeah, try to keep the installation as clean as possible again, following most of my philosophy, not drilling holes. So this hole was already existing in the boat. As you can see here, we got the 50 amp thermal circuit breaker right here, still off as you can see. Solar panels are not even connected yet, so for safety precautions. MPPT controller right there, and the 60 amp fuse from the MPPT controller to the actual battery bank. So the last step will be actually connecting, or the last steps I should say, will be connecting the positive and negative wire to the bus connectors on the battery bank. So that also the MPPT controller can learn what kind of a battery bank this is. It does that all automatically according to the manual. And once that is done, it's a matter of indeed flipping that breaker over there and also connecting the actual solar panels as well, hard connecting them on the back of the boat. So fingers crossed that this is going well. So far it looks pretty good and clean in my opinion. So it's all hooked up successfully. Supposedly it's working according to the app that I've downloaded. The cool thing is with these Victron Energy smart controllers, as I mentioned earlier, they have the capability of having a Bluetooth connection. So I downloaded the app on my smartphone, and it's actually the app itself. It looks for the charge controller. It did the necessary updates to make sure that the firmware was all up to date. And yeah, it's connected. It's working. Fuses haven't popped, so fingers crossed that that will never happen. Please note that part of the solar panels are now being shaded by the boom of the boat, so technically we only have partial performance of the panels right now. It's late in the afternoon here and it's cloudy. So, but according to this, it's working. It's charging.
So the app is showing here that we're currently consuming 14.7 volts.
No, that's the voltage of the battery right now.
Okay.
So, but our consumption is currently this.
6.8 amps.
That's correct.
Okay. And what else is the app telling me?
Well, it shows you the voltage, or the wattage, sorry, of the panels, so the performance at this moment in time. So this is the voltage that it's currently charging with. And then convert that. Here you have the amps that it's currently putting into the battery bank right now. So we have a 12 volt system, and the cool part is that you can use let's say residential grade solar panels that are have higher voltage technically than, let's say, your regular 12 volt solar panels that you buy for RVs or for marine applications. So they have a little bit more oomph. But the cool part is an MPPT controller actually has the capability to convert it to 12 volts. So that's our setup at least, and other people have done it as well. So if it works for us. People have different opinions about what you should do and how much space you have, and 12 volt panels obviously work well too. Some of them have a lot of flexibility, literally flexibility, so you can mount them in different locations. But yeah, we decided to go with the residential type, the rigid type, because it also gives us some additional shade as it extends off of the bimini as well. So very happy so far. So we'll monitor the performance in the days to come. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more sunnier here in Marina Del Rey, but yeah, we'll keep you posted.
And real quick, going back to the app, so you were showing me on the app that a minute ago we were doing bulk charging.
Mm-hmm.
Can you show on the app? Because just now it didn't look like it was bulk. It said something else.
Now it went to absorption.
So let me see that again. So you mentioned that there are 3 types of states.
Yeah. So in which the battery charger technically maintains, or the solar charger, I should say, actually maintains the battery bank. So the most important part is when you charge a battery bank, of course, you have different stages that a battery bank is in. Let's say you pretty much drained it completely. Of course, what it will do, it will bulk charge and charge up the batteries as kind of like as fast, quote unquote, as it can. You know, with the maximum amount of amps, and just charge it up. But once you get indeed to a certain voltage and a certain range within the charge in your battery bank, it goes into a different mode. This particular case, I guess it went to an absorption mode. I'm not a technical guy. I can't really explain to you what that exactly means. Google it. So that's my advice on that. But once it goes to, let's say it gets into a more stable state, so your battery bank is pretty much full, you know, you're just using a little bit. What the solar charger would then do, it will most likely go into, let's say, just a float mode, where it technically just maintains your battery charge as much as it can. So either way, different modes, different explanations. Again, I'm not an electrical engineer. All of my knowledge has come from reading forums and manuals, you know, so my recommendation is for others to also do that as well. You know, don't be discouraged. Read up on it. If you're really not sure, of course, have a system hooked up by an electrical engineer or an electrician who really knows what somebody is doing. But if you do it step by step, I can say that it's a very easy thing to do. I was comfortable of doing it, and I think if you keep your work clean and route the wires in a proper way, that they don't get kinked, your connectors have, you know, heat shrink wrap around them to make it all as safe as possible, so that you cannot, let's say, connect to it with some other random wire and short it out. I think that there are some basic safety measures that you can take to make this installation also safe as well.
But even though you looked through forums and read up on it a lot, at the end of the day, you also had a mechanical engineering degree, and then you used to work a lot on cars and motorcycles.
Correct.
And you
so
also
other
used
12-volt systems, that's correct.
And you also used to work in the solar industry.
Yeah.
Selling equipment
that build solar panels as well.
Right. So I just want to make that clear for people who are listening, that it was more than just forums and things that you read. You also had a little bit of a technical background, even though you say you're not technical. You're not an electrician.
I'm not an electrician. I'm not an electrical engineer. But again, you know, I think that if you go about it in a logical, safe, non-rushed way, that technically anybody can do it that has, you know, the capabilities of working with 2 hands. I think you can figure it out.